Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to beautiful Etobicoke. My name is Deepak Anand. I'm the MPP for Mississauga Malton. According to Ontario's Independent Electric System Operator, IESO, electricity demand is projected to increase as high as 90% by 2050, driven by population growth, new housing, advanced manufacturing, electrical vehicle production. As business continues to grow and choose Ontario to invest, reliable and affordable electricity has become one of our province's greatest competitive advantage. The Toronto Region Board of Trade has said a modern and resilient electricity system is essential for business to innovate, expand, and compete globally. And I know the members of Mississauga Board are here and they can testify to that. Days like today, we are about to more than infrastructure. It is about planning for the next generation. Under the leadership of Premier Ford, our government is making the investments needed today to ensure Ontario has the energy infrastructure to support new homes, attract new businesses, strengthen our economy, and more than anything, create jobs of tomorrow. To unveil the next step in our plan to do so, I would like to thank Minister Stephen Lecce for his commitment to strengthening Ontario's energy infrastructure and supporting our growth. So I'd like to welcome Minister Lecce to the podium. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, first off, to our friends at Connectrix for letting us in today. We are very grateful for the work you do, a century of leadership, of making a difference in this country across the continent. And so thank you to your workers. Really, this is part of the dream of Ontario of building on time and on budget because we have a mature supply chain that is deeply proud of the work we do. And of course, we're here with some fine parliamentarians, colleagues and friends from the Legislature of Ontario. I want to thank Deepak Anand for opening it up today. Thank you, Deepak, for the work you do for the people of Malton and all of Mississauga. I want to thank Natalie Pierre, the MPP for Burlington, who's been a strong advocate for growth across Halton and affordable power. And of course, the parliamentary assistant. We're the tag team here in the Ministry of Energy. David Smith just had a fabulous youth initiative of skilled trades to try to encourage young people to pursue it in Scarborough. So thank you for the work you do. Of course, to Giles, the President and CEO of the Toronto Region Board of Trade, thank you for the work you do, your advocacy and partnership. And Megan, the CEO of Hydro One, thank you so much for your work and collaboration. I want to thank Premier Ford. We are in his riding. It only makes sense to acknowledge the member from Etobicoke North, and of course MPP and Minister Kinga Surma, who is the neighbor here, both champions for Etobicoke. So we know the problem we're trying to solve, which is this province has to generate and transmit more power in order to meet our growth demands. Toronto specifically is anticipating to double the grid by 2050. And so in order to move and generate the power we need to sustain our growth, we need to plan ahead. And that's why we're here. Because our government and our province, in partnership with the IESO, with Hydro One, with the City of Toronto, with local utilities, with our MPPs, we are planning ahead, building for future generations, setting up our province for long-term success. That is the competitive advantage we have in this province that most jurisdictions on the continent could only dream of. We are thinking and building for the future. And so we announced a plan to fund the Etobicoke Greenway project, a transmission project that represents roughly 300 additional megawatts of essential power into the western region of the GTA, for Mississauga, for Oakville, for Burlington, certainly for Etobicoke in the west part of Toronto. Across the board, the demand is rising. And so we announced a plan to build a 230 kilovolt line, a KV line that's running in an idle area, essentially transmission corridor that was being underutilized. So working with Hydro One, building between Richview and Demandby, transformer stations, we invested, updated the corridor, built new transmission capacity. And by doing so, we're moving power to strengthen the grid in a critical region of Toronto and the GTHA. 300 more megawatts is equivalent to adding a small modular reactor of power in the region. And that's going to be essential to powering up our growth. I'm also proud to profile that today, this project was completed, not just $10 million below budget, but it was completed on time, with 98% of the investments staying in this country. And that's how we grow our economy. That is how our Premier protects Ontario, by reinvesting and reindustrializing and really doubling down to the supply chain of Canada and making sure Ontario workers always win the day. So we're here to profile a win for the ratepayer, for the taxpayer, and for this economy. We can build transmission lines in partnership with Hydro One ahead of schedule and under budget. And that has been our virtue, on time, on budget. That's the expectation the Premier has set out for David and I in energy and mines, but really for our entire government. Build with discipline, build for future generations, build to strengthen our economy. And that's what we're doing today as we announce the official completion of the Etobicoke Greenway project, $10 million below budget, ahead of schedule, 98% of investments staying in this province. We are proud to profile that win today. So thank you. Thank you all for supporting this. This is very much aligned with our nuclear build. We are building on time and on budget. I mean, Connectrix is a critical part of our nuclear expansion, and we wouldn't be doing it without them. And I think about our nuclear build, the largest in North America, the Premier Ford is leading. We talk about having ambition, standing up to President Trump, doing big things. Well, we're leading the largest nuclear build out in North America, the largest expansion of net new power to generation, 16,000 megawatts of additional power. I mean, we're talking about power for 16 million homes. It dwarfs that of the state of New York, to give you a sense of how significant this investment is. We're investing in Canadian tech, in Canadian fuels, in Canadian labor in this country. And that's why we believe not just in the sovereignty of our country, but we believe in energy sovereignty, energy independence. It's why just a month ago, the Premier and I talked about a pipeline, a sovereign pipeline. It's why months before that, our government was talking about leading the first small modular reactor in the G7. We are leading, we're building big, we're building for your kids. And so I want to thank you all for being a part of this, profiling a win for families. And I want to welcome the CEO of the Toronto Region Board of Trade, someone who's been an outspoken and played an outsized role in advocating for the expansion of transmission and clean power generation for the people of GTHA, and that's Giles Garrison. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Minister Lecce. It's really great to be here at this Connectrix facility. I think many of us have kind of passed by on the road without really realizing, you see the film studio on one side, but without really realizing what was on the other side, this massive, really, really, truly impressive facility. Thank you for having me at this morning's important announcement, Minister. At a time when many of our businesses, and you've said this, are being savaged literally by US tariffs, and with the prospect of maybe more to come, Toronto Region Board of Trade is laser focused on building up this region's economic competitiveness for stronger investment and to put our region on a stronger growth path. When companies are deciding where to locate their next facility or expand their operations, cost and availability of energy are paramount considerations. And it's no secret that over the next 25 years, and I'm only the third person to say that this morning, our energy demand is projected to skyrocket, driven by industrial expansion, electrification, advanced manufacturing, and digital infrastructure. Available, reliable, and competitively priced energy generation, transmission, and distribution form a critical trifecta of any investable economy and a powerful force multiplier for investment. In the last year and a half, I've been delighted to participate in a number of important announcements, sometimes in parking lots and all kinds of places with Minister Lecce, each of them about shoring up supply and transmission to our homes and businesses as we look towards the next several decades. For example, last year, Minister Lecce announced the launch of Toronto's third transmission line, running under Lake Ontario from Clarington to the downtown core. Now today, in a similar vein, we have this important announcement of the completion of the 6.5 kilometer Etobicoke Greenway transmission line project, delivering 300 megawatts of capacity to the grid. And I understand, for example, not only with this facility consuming an enormous amount of power, and it needs to, but I gather TTC is putting its electric bus facility just next door or very close nearby. So this is a critical upgrade that will strengthen the region's capacity to support new housing, business expansion, industrial investment, and electrification. So today is more than just a strong signal that the provincial government is prioritizing on meeting our energy needs in the future. Today's completion of the Etobicoke Greenway transmission line project is delivering the foundation for growth, resilience, and prosperity that will define Toronto's competitive edge for generations to come. On behalf of the Toronto Region Board of Trade, we really welcome this project and the continued leadership in building modern, reliable electricity system that the region's future growth demands. So thank you very much, and now I'll pass off to Natalie Pierre, MPP for Burlington. Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today to mark the completion of another critical energy infrastructure project that will help Ontario's electrical grid keep pace with rising electrical demand in the GTA. While this project is located in Etobicoke, its benefits extend far beyond Toronto. And as the Member of Provincial Parliament for Burlington, I know firsthand how important a reliable and resilient electrical system is for our growing community. Across Burlington, across Halton Region, we're building more homes, welcoming new businesses, expanding advanced manufacturing, and seeing increased demand from industries like life sciences, technology, and data centers. All of that growth depends on a strong electricity grid. The Etobicoke Greenway project line is another important part of Ontario's broader transmission network. By increasing capacity and strengthening reliability in the Western GTA, as Ontario electrifies transportation, attracts new investment, and meets growing demand for clean energy, we need modern infrastructure that keeps pace. The additional transmission capacity created through this project will help support homes, support businesses, public transit, and economic growth across the region. Our government is making strategic investments that strengthen Ontario's electrical system, improve reliability, and help create the conditions for continued economic prosperity. Thank you to Hydro One, the IESO, the project team, and everyone who helped make this important milestone possible. Thank you. I'd now like to invite Megan Telford, President and CEO of Hydro One, to say a few words. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the intro and for the outfit coordination. So we're on brand this morning. And with that, a very warm thank you to Kinetrix, a great partner to Hydro One and our neighbor here in Etobicoke, as our Manby station is next door. So what a real pleasure to be here with you today. We are celebrating an important milestone for the GTA, for Toronto, and for Ontario's electricity system. The energization of this new line adds approximately 300 megawatts of capacity to the system, enough to power every home in Etobicoke twice over. It will support the approximately 4,500 megawatts of electricity that that Hydro One supplies to the City of Toronto every single hour. But actually, I want to take a moment to put this project into a greater context, because today is about more than a new transmission line. Across Canada, there is a renewed focus on large-scale infrastructure that will strengthen our economy, support communities, and build greater self-reliance. Here in Ontario, I want to commend the government. The government has a vision for growth and a plan to meet the demands of tomorrow. As the province's trusted transmission developer and operator, Hydro One has a mandate to help deliver that vision. And this project is a great example of what we can achieve when great vision meets disciplined execution. Electricity is something that is easy to take for granted. A teacher flips a switch, a commuter boards a train, and a parent walks into a hospital. And we expect power to be there for all of life's moments, big and small. But behind those everyday moments is an extraordinary network, one that connects communities, supports our economy, and powers daily life across Ontario. And I want to thank Hydro One employees, our contractors and partners, whose expertise, dedication, and focus on safe delivery, as the Minister said so eloquently, brought this project to life on time and under budget. The Etobicoke Greenway transmission line is part of Hydro One's proven track record of delivering major infrastructure projects successfully. In December 2024, we energized the Chatham to Lakeshore transmission line 1 full year ahead of schedule and under budget, replacing the project's total cost by approximately $30 million. Across the province, Hydro One continues to deliver the infrastructure that Ontario needs. And as Ontario grows, that experience and track record matter. Customers and the people of Ontario expect us to be disciplined with every dollar we invest, and we are. That expectation guides every decision we make across our business at Hydro One. In 2025 alone, our productivity efforts generated more than $254 million in savings, exceeding our target by 31%. At the same time, we were able, on our projects, to spend more than 90% of our procurement with Canadian companies, the vast majority here in Ontario. And as the Minister said, this project alone, 98% Canadian supply chain. We know that every dollar matters, and our employees who live and work in communities across this province are dedicated to delivering for Ontarians. We invest where it is needed, and we invest where it delivers the greatest benefit. The focus has never been more important. Electricity demand is increasing, infrastructure needs renewal, and severe weather and wildfires are becoming more frequent and intense. Projects like the Etobicoke Greenway transmission line build the capacity, resilience, and reliability Ontario will need for the future. Our work does not stop here. We will continue to plan, build with discipline, and deliver the reliable and secure electricity system needed to power Ontario's growth. I'd like to thank the City of Toronto for its partnership throughout this project. Working together helped us bring this transmission line into service successfully, and we'll continue to work together to shape the future of the Etobicoke Greenway Trail. Today is a celebration. It's a celebration of what long-term planning, strong partnership, vision, and disciplined execution can accomplish. And it's also a reminder of what is possible when Ontario has a vision for growth. But remind yourself, it also has the people, the expertise, and the determination to deliver it. I am proud of the role that Hydro One plays in building that future. Thank you very much. And with that, I'm honored to invite Stephen Lecce back to the stand.
We will now begin the Q&A. Any media can line up next to me. Please say your name and outlet when you approach the mic. And as a reminder, it's one question and one follow-up.
Hey, Minister. Good morning. Barbara with QP Briefing. I do have some questions about Bill 5 and Billy Bishop's expansion. So did the province receive any indication from Ottawa before Friday that it would move forward? And if the federal government's approval to expand the airport was always required under the three-parts agreement, why did the province invoke Bill 5 and said that the project was moving forward before actually getting this approval?
I think the government is committed to economic growth for the people of Toronto and the GTHA. There's $8.5 billion of economic value that can be unlocked by having an expansion in Toronto when it comes to our airport capacity. And so the government is committed to growing the economy, to reducing, or rather enhancing consumer choice, and more than anything else, preparing for growth. And that's what we're doing in the Ministry of Energy. I mean, while it's not within our ministry here, it's the same principle. We're thinking ahead. We're seeing population intensify. And so the government is committed to working with the federal government to build the case for this expansion, as the Minister of Transportation noted on Friday.
And is there any scenario where Bill 5 could still be used to advance like some parts of this project despite Ottawa's position?
I would have to refer you to the Ministry of Transportation. I don't know.
Hi, Minister. I want to ask you about AI data centers. We know there are a lot of them being proposed here in Ontario. Why hasn't your government set out any guardrails or criteria kind of establishing which companies are going to have access to Ontario's grid?
So a year ago, the government passed Bill 40. Bill 40, it was the legislation, the first of its kind really in the country, that was a response to the lessons learned in the U.S., particularly the U.S. South, where there were not guardrails. There were no protections in place. If we didn't pass Bill 40, if we didn't pass this legislation, we wouldn't have had the ability to deny connections. The Electricity Act, under the status quo, has a non-discrimination clause. So if we didn't act to amend the law, we would have not had the choice as a government to deny data centers that just don't make sense or don't add value or are not in the broader interests of the province. So that's the first principle. We now have the right to say no. That's an important tool as we see data centers, these requests happening across municipalities. The second principle is Bill 40 codifies, or at least it communicates the clear intention that if you want to enter the grid, you need to pay 100% of the cost of power, of the generation costs and the transmission costs. And the bill also includes retroactivity. So if a data center was added to the grid today, Bill 40 will apply. We have the retroactivity capacity to make sure that any company that wants to enter the grid has to pay 100% of the cost. And I want to be clear on what that means. The cost to generate power, the cost of transmitting power, the maintenance costs of our nuclear fleet, all of these things will be factored in to the bottom line costs those companies will pay. Because what we're not going to allow, and I think where we had the foresight to think ahead, is you look at what's happening in the south of the U.S. where they didn't have guardrails. They didn't have any electricity safeguards and prices have skyrocketed. So our message is if you want to enter into our grid, you got to pay the full cost. And Microsoft was a large data center that came online, as you know, in the city of Vaughan, Markham, a few other municipalities. They accepted that principle. 100% of the cost of the power they will use, they will pay for. And I think that's an important principle that Ontarians know, that's what we're committed to, protecting rates from increasing with everyday ratepayers and seniors and families shouldering 100% of the cost. What we're simply saying is that's not acceptable. It won't be permissible under law. And we now have a law in place, legislative tools that give us the right to say no.
Is that the only criteria, though, then, for a company to have access to the grid? Is that they will pay 100% of the cost, or are there other criteria that you're looking at?
The Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade is unveiling a broader framework for digital infrastructure. This is much bigger than power, but I know we played a really important role here. What I can commit to you is if a data center wants to enter the grid, there will be criteria set out. They're going to have to meet some conditions. And the Premier and Minister Fedeli all of us have communicated we've signaled what they are. We want to see community benefit and community support. We want to see the power costs paid 100% borne by the company, not by everyday families and ratepayers. We want to see data sovereignty, making sure the data is stored in our clouds so that we're not beholden to a U.S. president invoking the Cloud Act and really undermining the privacy of Canadian data. We think there's a few fundamental principles, like the community's got to have a role, there's got to be benefit for the community, there's got to be 100% of the power costs paid by the company. These are some of the areas where the Premier and government has signaled a priority, and I think what you'll see is a plan that will be unveiled that will codify each of those elements, led by Minister Fedeli. But we've been very clear. You want to enter the grid, you got to pay 100% of the cost. We will not allow everyday families and seniors to pay or subsidize these large investments. They got to pay the full cost.
Concerned, though, that framework isn't out yet when municipalities are struggling to make these decisions right now?
I think the municipalities, like industry and investors, the ISO, they all know clearly where we stand. We passed a bill 1 year ago to signal our intent, and we've made sure there's retroactivity clauses to make sure that everyone is grandfathered or covered into that principle. The bottom line is, if a data center wants to come to Ontario, it is not your right. That was the law before our government changed it. There's got to be value. We've got the great climate, a cooler climate. We've got the skilled labor. We've got power that is relatively clean and abundant. We have a lot of advantages. But in order to get to yes on a connection, you better make sure we will make sure it's in the interest of the province and of the local community. Obviously, data centers, the province will need to store data in the province. Our sovereignty relies on this. But as I've made clear and the government has made clear, we're not going to proceed unless it makes sense for the community and it adds value to our economy.
Okay, I just have one last one for you. It's on another topic. There's some reporting today that your former PA, Chris Scott, was having a romantic relationship with a staff member while he was working for you. Do you think that's appropriate, and do you think he should be allowed back in the PC caucus?
The individual has been removed from caucus for those allegations, and he will remain out of caucus at this time. I can't speak for the government, but what I can simply say is we take these allegations very seriously, as we should. Thank you.
That'll conclude our press conference. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.